The giant human ships floated in space like sleeping giants above the assembly station. Hyunwoo stood on the main deck of the biggest ship looking down at the alien station below. His face showed no feelings as he watched the strange creatures running around in panic through the metal corridors. They looked like ants when their hill gets kicked. Dr. Somin worked fast at her computer station nearby. Her fingers moved quickly across the keys as she downloaded 50 years of research data from the alien networks. Every formula, every discovery, every secret the aliens had shared with humans was being copied and taken away. She had been working for 3 days straight, but she would not stop until everything was saved. Captain Taeho walked up to Hyunwoo and stood next to him. The young captain had fought in many battles against alien enemies. He had seen too many of his friends die fighting wars that were not even humanity's wars. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his eyes were tired from years of being treated like a servant by creatures who thought they were better than humans. The assembly meeting had been a disaster. For 50 long years, humans had done everything the aliens asked. When pirates attacked alien trade ships, humans fought them off. When alien colonies needed protection, humans sent soldiers. When alien scientists could not solve problems, humans figured out the answers. When alien worlds needed food, humans grew crops and sent them across the galaxy. But when humans asked for the same rights as other species, the aliens laughed. When humans wanted fair trade deals, the aliens said no. When humans asked to have equal votes in the assembly, the aliens told them to be happy with what they had. The alien leaders sat in their fancy chairs and looked down at the human representatives, like they were looking at dogs who had learned to speak. What the aliens never understood was that humans did not really need them. Back on Earth in the human colonies, factories worked day and night building ships and weapons and machines. Human scientists made new discoveries every day that were better than anything the aliens had. Human farmers grew more food than any alien world could produce. Human soldiers were stronger and smarter and braver than any alien army. The aliens had been so busy using humans to solve their problems that they never noticed humans were becoming more powerful than any of them. While alien species fought each other over old arguments, humans built new colonies and made new friends and created new technologies. The galaxy had thousands of different alien species, but only one human species, and that one species had become the most important of all. Hyunwoo looked at his watch. The time had come. He pressed a button on his communication device and spoke to every human ship in the galaxy. His voice was calm but firm as he gave the order that would change everything. Within seconds, human ships all across the galaxy started moving. They left their posts at alien stations. They stopped protecting alien trade routes. They pulled back from alien colonies. They came home. Taeho watched his screens as reports came in from human commanders everywhere. The withdrawal was happening exactly as planned. 50,000 human ships left their positions and headed back to human space. Human soldiers packed their gear and left alien worlds. Human scientists shut down their research labs and took their equipment. Human farmers harvested their last crops from alien soil and loaded them onto transport ships. On the assembly station below, alien delegates pressed their faces against windows trying to see what was happening. The Zarkani representatives waved their tentacles in panic. The Kelian leaders flapped their wings nervously. The Theron council members clicked their claws together in worry. For decades, they had gotten used to having humans around to fix their problems. Now the humans were leaving and they did not know what to do. So Min finished downloading the last files and closed her computer. She walked over to her husband Hyunwoo and put her hand on his shoulder. They had both worked for years trying to make peace between humans and aliens. They had hoped that cooperation would lead to friendship and respect. But the aliens saw cooperation as weakness and friendship as servitude. The alien communication system started buzzing with desperate messages. Assembly Chairman Vextal tried to contact the human fleet, but nobody answered. Other alien leaders sent urgent requests for meetings, but the humans ignored them. Some aliens even offered bribes and special deals, but the human ships kept moving away. Taeho smiled for the first time in months as he watched the chaos on the alien station. The same creatures who had treated humans like useful pets were now running around like scared children. They had no idea how much they had depended on human help until that help was gone. The human fleet moved in perfect formation as they left the assembly space. Every ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. This withdrawal had been planned for years in secret. Human leaders had prepared for this day while still pretending to serve alien masters. They had built up their own military forces and industrial capacity while the aliens thought humans were weak and desperate. As the last human ship disappeared into hyperspace, the assembly station fell silent. The aliens stood in their meeting halls looking at each other with fear in their eyes. They had just realized something terrible. The humans had not been serving the galaxy out of gratitude or weakness. The humans had been holding the galaxy together, and now they were gone. Hyunwoo looked at the star charts showing human space. Every human colony was safe and protected. Every human world was growing stronger. Every human ship was ready for whatever came next. The aliens had thought they were using humans, but really humans had been preparing for independence, while learning everything they could from alien technology and knowledge. The Great Departure was complete. 50 years of service to ungrateful alien masters was over. Now humanity would show the galaxy what they were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be anyone's servants. The aliens had made their choice, and now they would live with the consequences. The age of human servitude was ending. The age of human power was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the humans left and the galaxy was falling apart. On the bridge of his stolen merchant ship, pirate Captain Zexgon smiled as he looked at the star charts. For 20 years his raids had failed because human warships always appeared to stop him. Now the space lanes were empty and defenseless. It was time to take everything he wanted. What Zexgon did not know was that Commander Jin Ho had been hunting pirates like him for decades. The human special forces had been destroying pirate bases and capturing pirate leaders in secret missions across the galaxy. The aliens never knew about these operations because Jin Ho always made it look like local security forces had done the work. Now Jin Ho and his teams were gone and the pirates were free to attack. The first raid hit a Keelian trade convoy carrying medicine to 3 different star systems. Zexgon and his fleet destroyed 12 cargo ships and took everything valuable. The Keelian Defense Force tried to fight back, but their ships were old and slow. Without human tactical support, they had no chance against the pirates. Hundreds of innocent traders died in the attack. News of the raid spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Within hours, similar attacks happened in 7 different systems. Pirates who had been hiding for years came out of their secret bases. They knew the humans were gone and nobody else could stop them. The galaxy that had been peaceful for decades suddenly became a war zone. On the medical research station above Theron Prime, Dr. Kulven stared at his broken equipment. The machines that created life-saving drugs had stopped working 3 days ago. He had tried everything he could think of, but nothing helped. What he did not understand was that Dr. Soman had designed and maintained these machines for 15 years. Without her knowledge, the complex systems were failing one by one. The medicine shortage hit the alien worlds like a plague. 3 major diseases that had been controlled for decades started killing thousands of people. The Theron government sent desperate messages to other species asking for help, but nobody knew how to make the medicines. Only the humans had understood the complete process, and they had taken all their research with them. Dr. Kulven tried to contact human medical stations but got no response. The communication channels that had always been open were now closed. He sent formal requests through diplomatic channels but received only automated messages saying that all requests would be reviewed in the order they were received. People were dying while he waited for humans to return his calls. The crisis got worse when the agricultural world started reporting crop failures. Farmer Dong Hyun had revolutionized farming across 17 different planets. He had brought plants and earth farming methods that made alien crops grow 3 times better than before. The alien farmers thought their own scientists had developed these new techniques. They had no idea that everything came from human knowledge. On the farming world of Vextar, alien agricultural chief Morden walked through fields of dying crops. The plants that had grown so well for years were now turning brown and falling over. The soil treatments that had worked perfectly were no longer effective. The irrigation systems that had never failed were breaking down. Everything was going wrong at the same time. Morden called the Agricultural Research Center but found out that all the human scientists had left. The databases that contained farming information were locked and required human access codes. The seed banks that provided new crop varieties were empty because the humans had taken everything with them. Morden realized that his world would face starvation within months. Back on the assembly station, Emergency Coordinator Q Jin tried to make sense of the disaster reports flooding his desk. Every day brought new problems. Mining operations on 12 worlds had stopped because human safety systems were failing. Transport networks were breaking down because human logistics coordinators were gone. Even simple things like waste disposal were becoming impossible without human technical support. The worst reports came from the military bases. Without human advisors, the alien armies could not coordinate their movements. Communication systems that had worked for decades were failing because human technicians were not there to maintain them. Weapons that had been reliable were breaking down because nobody knew how to repair them properly. Q Jin tried to understand how this had happened. The humans had always seemed like helpful assistants who followed alien orders. But now he was learning that humans had been running everything behind the scenes. They had been the real managers of galactic civilization, while letting the aliens think they were in charge. The assembly members who had laughed at human demands 3 weeks ago were now fighting among themselves. Each species blamed the others for the crisis. The Xelon accused the Kelians of being too dependent on humans. The Theron said the Zarkani had been foolish to trust human technology, but they were all equally helpless without human support. Chairman Vextal called emergency meetings every day, but nobody had solutions. They tried to contact human colonies, but their messages were ignored. They offered trade deals and payments, but got no response. The humans who had always been eager to help were now completely silent. It was like they had disappeared from the galaxy completely. Some alien scientists tried to reverse engineer human technology, but quickly discovered it was impossible. Human machines were too complex and used principles that aliens had never learned. Human computer programs were written in languages that aliens could not understand. Human farming methods required knowledge that had taken generations to develop. The truth became clear to everyone with eyes to see. The aliens had not been using humans as servants. The humans had been taking care of the aliens like parents taking care of children. Every system, every process, every solution that kept galactic civilization running had been created and maintained by human experts. The aliens had been living in a house built by humans while pretending they owned it. As the 4th week began, the situation got even worse. Refugee ships from attacked colonies crowded around major worlds asking for protection. Disease outbreaks spread to new systems as medical supplies ran out. Food riots started on worlds facing starvation. The peaceful galaxy that had existed for 50 years was collapsing into chaos. And somewhere in human space, former Ambassador Hyun-woo read the reports and smiled. The aliens were finally learning what humans were really worth. Ambassador Veltar of the Assembly held his communication device with 4 shaking hands as he tried to reach any human ship anywhere in the galaxy. For 12 hours straight, he had been sending messages, but every single one came back with the same automated response that said all communications would be reviewed later. Around him, the once proud assembly station buzzed with panic as species after species reported complete system failures. The military situation had become a nightmare beyond imagination. Without Commander Jae-sung and his tactical expertise, the Kim Assembly fleet had lost 8 major battles against pirates in just 2 weeks. Jae-sung had been their secret weapon for 15 years, coordinating defense strategies that kept space lanes safe from criminals and hostile forces. He had trained alien officers and planned their missions and given them all the credit when they succeeded. Now merchant ships were being destroyed every single day, and trade between star systems had almost stopped completely. The insurance companies that protected cargo shipments had canceled all their policies because the space lanes were too dangerous. Entire economies that depended on interstellar commerce were shutting down as goods stopped flowing between worlds. Admiral Kexral of the Kelian fleet stood in his command center, watching his ships get torn apart by a pirate attack near the Vortex Nebula. His officers shouted orders and fired weapons, but nothing worked like it used to. The battle computers that had always given perfect targeting solutions were giving wrong information. The shields that had always protected their ships were failing at critical moments. What Admiral Kexral did not know was that human technicians had been secretly maintaining all his equipment for years. They had written the software programs that ran his ships. They had designed the shield systems that kept his crews alive. They had created the weapons targeting systems that made his fleet effective in battle. Without human support, his advanced warships were just expensive pieces of metal floating in space. The agricultural crisis had grown even worse than anyone had imagined. Dr. Hyejin had taken her seed banks and farming knowledge back to human space, leaving entire worlds without the ability to grow food. The synthetic nutrients that had fed billions of aliens required manufacturing processes that only humans understood. The food processors that turned raw materials into meals for armies and cities needed replacement parts that only human factories could make. On the farming world of Selmora, Governor Thekgon watched his people load onto evacuation ships as starvation approached. The crops that had fed his world for 20 years had completely failed. The soil that had been rich and fertile was now turning to dust. The water systems that had irrigated millions of acres were breaking down without human engineering support. Governor Thekgon had tried everything he could think of to save his world. He had ordered his scientists to study the failed crops, but they could not understand what had gone wrong. He had imported food from other worlds, but those worlds were having the same problems. He had even tried to contact human agricultural stations directly, but his messages were never answered. The most terrifying crisis of all was the technological collapse that was spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Engineer Minho had been maintaining critical infrastructure on dozens of worlds for 25 years. Power grids that provided electricity to billions of people had been designed by him. Communication networks that connected star systems had been built with his knowledge. Transportation systems that moved people and goods had been created with his expertise. Without Minho and his teams, the foundation of modern civilization was crumbling. On the industrial world of Carrex, the main power plant shut down, leaving 50 million aliens without electricity. The backup generators that were supposed to keep essential services running had not been maintained properly and failed within hours. Hospitals could not treat patients without power. Food storage facilities could not keep supplies fresh. Even basic water purification systems stopped working. The Assembly tried desperately to reach out to their traditional allies, hoping someone could help them solve these impossible problems. But what they discovered made their situation even more hopeless. The Kalari Confederation politely informed them that they had signed a mutual defense pact with humanity 6 months before the withdrawal. The Theron Republic explained that they were already receiving human military advisors under a new security agreement. Species after species gave the same response when the Assembly asked for help. They already had arrangements with humanity and could not risk damaging those relationships by helping the Assembly. Some alien leaders were honest enough to admit that they needed human support more than they needed Assembly friendship. Others simply ignored Assembly requests completely. In complete desperation, the Assembly decided to send a formal delegation to human space to beg for help. The same aliens who had dismissed humans as useful servants just 2 months ago now prepared to travel across the galaxy to ask for mercy. Ambassador Veltar was chosen to lead the mission, even though he had been one of the loudest voices calling humans inferior during the last Assembly meeting. The delegation consisted of representatives from 12 major species, including the most powerful military leaders and wealthiest trade officials in the galaxy. They loaded their fastest ship with gifts and tribute, hoping to convince the humans to return. Gold and rare minerals and advanced alien technologies were packed into cargo holds as offerings to their former servants. But when the delegation reached the border of human space, they found something that made their hearts freeze with terror. Massive defense platforms hung in space like metal moons, guarding every possible entrance to human territory. Automated weapon systems tracked their ship as soon as they dropped out of hyperspace. Warning signals filled their communication channels, telling them to stop and identify themselves. The humans had not just been serving the galaxy while building their own civilization. They had been preparing for war. The defense network that protected human space was more advanced than anything the Assembly had ever seen. Shipyards that built warships at impossible speeds stretched across entire star systems. Manufacturing centers that produced weapons and equipment worked day and night without stopping. The delegation ship was met by human border patrol vessels that were clearly superior to anything in the assembly fleet. The human captain who contacted them was polite but firm. No alien ships would be allowed to enter human space without proper authorization and advance approval. All requests would need to be submitted through official channels and reviewed by human authorities. Ambassador Veltar found himself in the humiliating position of begging permission to enter the space of people he had considered inferior just weeks before. The species that had once commanded human obedience were now told to wait like children asking adults for favors. President Yi Jun of the Human Colonial Union sat in his office on New Sol, looking at reports from across human space. Since the withdrawal from the assembly, human colonies had grown stronger and richer than ever before. Without the constant burden of solving alien problems, human scientists, engineers, and farmers could focus on their own people. New technologies were invented every month, new worlds were colonized every year, and trade within human space was making everyone wealthy. The irony was not lost on President Yi Jun as he read intelligence reports about the chaos in alien space. The assembly had treated humans like junior partners who should be grateful for any recognition. But all along, humanity had quietly become the backbone that held galactic civilization together. Every crisis now destroying alien worlds had been prevented by human effort, and most aliens never even knew humans were helping them. Captain Nara commanded the border patrol along the former assembly trade routes where her ships now intercepted hundreds of alien refugees every day. Her orders were clear but fair: provide emergency medical aid and food, but no permanent asylum without proper application through official channels. The same species that had once looked down on humans as primitive creatures now desperately begged for human protection. The galactic economy was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. Currency systems that had relied on human computational power to process transactions crashed completely. Supply chains that had been managed by human logistics experts fell apart, leaving entire sectors without basic goods. Even simple services, like interstellar mail delivery, struggled without human technical support and organizational skills. On the trading world of Vex Prime merchant Keldor watched his fortune disappear as the economic collapse reached his sector. His warehouses full of valuable goods were worthless because there were no ships to transport them and no buyers who could afford them. The banking system that had processed his payments for 30 years had shut down when human computer specialists withdrew their support. Keldor had always believed that aliens were naturally superior to humans in business and trade. Humans were just useful workers who followed orders and did simple tasks. But now he understood that humans had been running the entire galactic economy behind the scenes. They had created the software that managed transactions, designed the systems that moved money between worlds, and maintained the networks that allowed interstellar commerce to function. Some alien species tried desperately to reverse engineer human technology, hoping they could replace human expertise with their own knowledge. The Xelon Empire spent billions of credits hiring their best scientists to study human machines. The Kelian Confederation ordered their engineers to copy human designs. The Theran Republic tried to recreate human manufacturing processes in their own factories. But they quickly discovered that the gap between human and alien technology was much wider than anyone had realized. Human advancement had been driven by their unique way of solving problems, combining creative thinking with systematic analysis in ways that other species could not copy. Decades of human innovation could not be duplicated in a few months by aliens who had never truly understood how human minds worked. Director Sun Ho of Human Intelligence received daily reports about assembly military movements from spy networks that had been built over many years. Several alien species were talking about using force to make humans return and help them. Some assembly members wanted to invade human colonies and capture human scientists and engineers. Others discussed threatening human trade routes to force negotiations. But the aliens planning these desperate attacks did not understand what they were thinking about doing. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare through constant conflicts on Earth and battles across the galaxy. While aliens had been comfortable and safe, Humans had been learning how to fight and survive and win against impossible odds. Without alien conflicts to distract them, human military development had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The most desperate aliens were already giving up their independence to survive. The minor species of the Outer Rim offered tribute payments in exchange for human protection from pirates. Some small governments requested to join the Human Colonial Union as protected territories. The balance of power was shifting so fast that traditional galactic politics could not keep up with the changes. On the assembly station, former Chairman Vex Tal met with emergency councils every day, but had no real power left to make decisions. The species that still belonged to the assembly were too busy dealing with internal crises to care about galactic government. Rebellions were starting on many worlds as alien populations demanded new leaders who could secure human assistance and protection. The Kalari Confederation was the first major power to officially abandon the assembly and sign a comprehensive alliance with humanity. Within days, the Theron Republic followed with their own agreement. The Xelon Empire tried to hold out longer, but civil war erupted when their colony worlds declared independence and requested human support against the imperial government. President Yi Jun watched these developments from his office, knowing that this was just the beginning of a complete transformation. Humanity had tolerated alien arrogance and condescension for 50 years while quietly building real power that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. The aliens had been so busy feeling superior that they never noticed humans becoming the most advanced and capable species in known space. Human colonies that had once been considered frontier outposts were now centers of learning and industry that attracted students and workers from across the galaxy. Human universities taught alien scientists the principles they needed to understand their own technology. Human factories produced goods that alien worlds desperately needed. Human hospitals treated diseases that alien doctors could not cure. The transformation was happening faster than anyone had expected. Species that had existed for thousands of years were restructuring their entire civilizations around human knowledge and human leadership. Governments that had ruled for centuries were being replaced by new administrations that promised better relations with humanity. But President Yi Jun knew that the real change was just beginning. The galaxy was learning what humans could accomplish when they stopped pretending to be servants and started acting like the superior species they had always been. The age of alien dominance was ending, and the age of human leadership had begun. 1 year after the Great Withdrawal, Ambassador Hyunwoo returned to the assembly station aboard the flagship Incheon, but this time everything was different. He came not as a humble representative begging for alien approval, but as humanity's chief negotiator to a galaxy that had learned to respect human power. The proud aliens who had once dismissed human requests now waited nervously in the docking bay, hoping their former servants might still show mercy to their failing civilizations. The new transformation of galactic society was more complete than anyone had imagined possible. Half of all assembly member species had already signed cooperation agreements with humanity that gave humans control over their military defense, economic planning, and technological development. The other half faced internal rebellions as their populations demanded new leaders who could secure human assistance before their worlds collapsed completely. Engineer Min Ho led teams of human specialists across the galaxy, but not as favors to desperate aliens. Every power plant he repaired, every communication network he restored, and every transportation system he rebuilt came with carefully written contracts that favored human interests above all others. The species that had once taken human expertise for granted now paid premium prices for human knowledge and accepted human terms without argument. On the industrial world of Carrex, where the power crisis had killed thousands of people, Minho supervised the construction of a new energy grid, but this time humans would own and operate the entire system. The alien government paid for the construction, provided the workers, and gave humans permanent control over their planet's most vital infrastructure. It was either accept human terms or watch their civilization die in darkness. Dr. So Min opened medical research centers on dozens of worlds, but under strict human management and oversight. Alien scientists who had once considered themselves superior to humans now worked as assistants in their own facilities, learning from the species they had dismissed as primitive. The medical breakthroughs that saved millions of alien lives carried human patents and licensing agreements that made humanity wealthy beyond measure. The alien doctors who had laughed at human medical knowledge just 2 years ago now begged to study at human universities. They paid enormous fees to learn techniques that humans had developed decades earlier. Every cure, every treatment, and every medical device came with restrictions that prevented aliens from sharing the knowledge without human permission. The military situation had stabilized across the galaxy, but only in star systems that accepted human protection. Captain Tejo commanded fleets that patrolled trade routes under human security guarantees. Pirates and hostile forces learned quickly that attacking human-protected shipping meant facing the full military might of a species that had perfected warfare through centuries of conflict. The Zealand pirate fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for months after the withdrawal were now completely destroyed. Captain Tejo had hunted them down systematically using human tactical superiority and advanced weapons that no alien force could match. The few pirates who survived were serving long prison sentences on human-controlled worlds, where they worked in factories to pay for the damage they had caused. Most remarkably, the galaxy was becoming more prosperous and peaceful than it had been in centuries. Without the inefficient assembly bureaucracy that had slowed down every decision, human-managed systems operated with perfect efficiency. Trade flowed smoothly along human logistics networks. Technology advanced rapidly under human research programs. Even the aliens benefited from the new order, though they were no longer in charge of their own destiny. The assembly itself had become nothing more than a ceremonial meeting place, where alien leaders gave speeches that nobody took seriously. Real decisions were made in the human colonial administration offices that had appeared on every major world. Alien governors still held their titles and wore their fancy uniforms, but everyone knew where actual power resided in the galaxy. President Yijun made his first official visit to the assembly station since the withdrawal, and the reception was unlike anything in galactic history. The same aliens who had laughed at human demands now lined up for hours, hoping to request a brief audience with the human leader. They offered tribute payments, trade agreements, military alliances, and anything else they could think of to maintain human goodwill. The Keelian ambassador, who had once called humans useful pets, now prostrated himself before President Yijun, begging for increased human investment in Keelian worlds. The Theron representative, who had voted against human equality, offered to make Yijun an honorary member of their highest noble order. The Zealon delegate promised that his people would build statues of human heroes in their capital cities. But humanity was not cruel or vengeful in victory. The new galactic order was more efficient, more prosperous, and more stable than what had existed before. Aliens who embraced their new role in human-led civilization found opportunities for advancement and success. Those who adapted to human leadership thrived under human guidance. The galaxy was safer, richer, and more united than it had been in living memory. Farmer Dong-hyun returned to the agricultural worlds not as a servant following alien orders, but as the director of food production for entire sectors of space. The farming techniques he had developed were now taught in schools. Across the galaxy, alien farmers paid licensing fees to use human seeds and followed human agricultural protocols that guaranteed successful harvests. The food shortages that had threatened billions of aliens were now completely solved under human management. Welisaur that had faced starvation were producing surplus crops. The synthetic food systems that fed armies and cities operated more efficiently than ever before. Even alien cuisine improved as human chefs introduced new flavors and cooking methods from Earth. As Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through the station corridors that had once echoed with alien arrogance, he reflected on how completely everything had changed. 50 years ago, humans had been grateful for any small recognition from alien species. Now alien species competed desperately for human attention and approval. The withdrawal had revealed what everyone should have understood long ago. Humanity had never needed the galaxy's permission to be great. The galaxy needed humanity to survive and prosper. The age of alien dominance was over forever. The age of human leadership had begun, and it would last for thousands of years to come. The species that had once treated humans as servants now served. human interest willingly and gratefully. The transformation was complete and there would be no going back to the old ways.